and we'll do a fast and furious version of this. So hey everybody, Nick with Good Impacts here, and we're sunsetting on the 0 to 80 and 80 campaign. We've almost wrapped this crazy journey up, but I wanted to before we conclude things take a chance to check in with my great friend Nate over in Georgia. Nate, why don't you say hi to I'm assuming millions and millions of viewers. Tell them a little bit about what you do full time and what you do on the side to support the B Corp community.
Yeah, so full time, I'm the director of culture and strategic impact at Victoriam Solutions. Look at that product placement. And then part time, I am the founder and chair of Be Local Georgia. So, and I also teach B Corp class at the University of Georgia in the MBA program. So we do experiential projects. We started last week, so perfect timing on this. But yeah, I'm a glutton for B Corp punishment and love what you're doing. And I think this is a pretty cool little promotion in 0 to 80 in 80 hours. So can see the bags under your eyes. So congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, those are real. I did not pay to have those well, I guess I am paying to have those added. So tell me a little bit about what your employer does and how you fit into the fabric of your community.
Yeah, we're a Salesforce partner. So when people get Salesforce licenses, we're the ones that will come in and a bunch of really smart people, and we make Salesforce work and kind of customize it to whatever you need. Connect legacy systems, and I love how I'm like actually like they're wires, like they're not wires, Nathan, but that's why they
Series
don't.
of tubes. Yeah.
Zeros and ones, baby. That's why they don't let me touch the technology. They only let me do culture and impact. But we're kind of, not a non-traditional B Corp, but I think a lot of people think B Corp and they think social impact, social entrepreneur. You must be some sort of, pseudo nonprofit. Like, no, we're just a consulting, IT consulting company. Like, there's nothing world changing about us, but we're committed to being a force for good. So, we do a lot of community impact. And our CEO called it guardrails for corporate decision making. So, keeping our business and thinking about what does this mean for stakeholders, what does it mean for the environment, our employees, for corporate governance, from a community standpoint, when things get busy and hectic, and we've made a commitment to do 1% of our revenue back to the community, either volunteerism or nonprofit, we can't just go like, well, we got busy. So much for that idea. It's like we have to figure out a way to do it. So it's a lot more than people think as far as once you get certified and and even as you're preparing to certify, which you're going through now, of like making that commitment, setting KPIs, putting strategy around how we're going to hit this KPI for next year, how it fits into our traditional business model, which is how we make money and stay in business and make payroll, and making it all happen together. So it's a fun job.
You kind of touched on some of the programs or policies, procedures that you've already got in place, but I know you score well on the community side of the BIA. Can you talk for a second or two about some of the specific things that you do?
Yeah, I mean, early on, we joined Pledge 1%, which is an organization that Salesforce actually started, getting companies to make sure that they're pledging something back, either in the form of equity or time or product. And we aim to hit time and product every year in form of volunteerism, and then we'll help nonprofits do um, implement Salesforce. Like even for Be Local Georgia, we just did a kind of a smart start day where we had four. We did Florida for Good, we did Be Local Georgia, we did Be Tennessee, and then we did a nonprofit in Atlanta that we've fallen in love with. So we, going out of our way to make sure that we can help nonprofits utilize, because Salesforce will give them free licenses. So making sure that though then they have the tools to actually use it, and it's not just a really fancy Rolodex, and then everybody reverts back to bad, ancient, inefficient processes. And
Right.
then we give everybody 40 hours a year to volunteer. So, and paid. So paid time off to volunteer. Everybody's, like some people are like, we do a day. And I'm like, no, we do 40 hours. Everybody gets a week. And everything from volunteering to, chaperoning a field trip to, we have people that dog shelters, cat rescues, nonprofit boards, meetings and things like that. So we're very flexible in how they can use it, because every year we're trying to, my goal this year is to get 75% of our team to take advantage of that. So getting creative, we ran a couple contests this year of like, the top 2 volunteers will get in, or everybody that volunteers, you get an entry per hour. And so we had somebody who's already done like 190 hours. So they maxed out their 40, but just above and beyond. I'm like, you've essentially worked 5 extra weeks this year. So it's taken hold, and people like it. People like to volunteer, and they like the fact that their company supports them. And I think a lot of people assume that that's probably a benefit your CEO and your executive team doesn't want your team to take advantage of. And for us, no, like that was the goal from my CEO, was 75% participation.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially thinking about that top-down leadership, because I mean, we all know a handful of businesses with VTO, with volunteer time off policies. And it's great that they offer it, but where's the utilization at? And it's not like they're hiding it from their employees, but at the same time, are they really trying to promote it? Because so you could take the myopic view, well, every hour that people don't volunteer is an hour we're not paying them. But
well, and for us, I mean, you think about being a consulting business, we sell time, we sell our people's time. So if we have, we did an event one year or earlier this year, we adopted a highway right outside of it actually connects our 2 offices. So we adopted this highway, and, and there's all 5 executives, they could be on sales calls or whatever. They're out with their plastic cheap orange vest on and with the trash grabber picking up recycling and stuff. But we had a total of like 40 people that day, and probably 30 of them are billable resources. And you think about 2 hours times 30 times our bill rate, that's an expensive event. Like that's not a like a cheap little like, hey, we can literally quantify the lost revenue, but it's just something that like, but what is it worth when you get the whole team together? We did a little social hour afterwards. What is it worth to bring the team together to shut the office, go give back, then go have a beverage and some appetizers together and talk about not work? I think that's worth more than whatever the lost revenue is. So that's where people start to see the value, and that's kind of where I love that I don't know, that purpose that comes with my job, and then being able to give it to people who, especially in this day and age, are looking for that kind of purpose at their job.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of this whole going through this certification process, I'm realizing what a poor job I've done tracking my volunteer time hours, whether it's, it is board service or it's picking up a shovel on a weekend. Because I do a fair amount of it just because there's a lot in the community and so many of my friends are already engaged in those things, but I haven't tracked it well. And I want to do that moving forward. And I'm frankly a little concerned about that for the BIA, because all of this is like you self-report and then you have to justify it. So how can you talk a little bit about how you track that? Maybe it's really easy for a Salesforce company, but
for consultants that are logging their time every day. We obviously we use Salesforce as a product called Financial Force. So we're logging our time. I mean, not necessarily the unbillable people like me. I still log my time because I like to know where it goes, how much went to marketing, how much went to B Corp related activities, how much. So I volunteer. So, but like our executives don't log their time. So like when we do an event like that, or they all know if they volunteer on a Saturday, just email me and I'll enter it into the system, and then I can easily run reports. But when I'm working with clients, when I have student groups working with clients, and I'll even do a little bit on the side here and there, and I kind of tell them, like, even if it's somebody, if you have somebody that's dedicated to this role, even if it's part-time, like when I started at Vic, I did a lot of financial operations and scheduling, and I was doing everything. And I was also doing the B Corp stuff, but it was my, focus for, 25% of my week. So I think even some of the smaller, now we've grown, it's my full-time focus, but even for the smaller organizations, even if it's somebody who that is, 25% of their job description, having them run it, even literally, even if it's inefficient, not from a Salesforce guy, I shouldn't be saying that, like, even if it's paper logged, but have them go in and then put it into a Google sheet, start tracking it. Same thing with like, somebody requests their volunteer time off, making sure that that lives somewhere. So at the end of the year, and doing it as you go throughout the year and not trying to go back. So I'd say for anybody that's about to embark on Nick's crazy 80 and 80 campaign, I would say start tracking it now so you have it. And maybe even if you have to spend a little bit of time, like my recommendation to you is like go back through your calendar. I'm sure you had roadside pickup on Saturday, July, whatever. And I'm sure it's on your calendar. It's just going to kind of be a beast to go back and start putting all that down in one spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's been so much forensic work in this anyway so far. So a little bit more not going to kill me. Super dumb question, and I feel like I should know this, but a couple of the questions on the BIA also include pro bono work toward your community contribution section. Do you know, by their definition, is pro bono completely free, or if you're doing it at reduced cost for a nonprofit or an underserved community, could you
I've
count that?
I've always counted it. I mean, because it depends how you. I mean, think about it. Like we've done projects for nonprofits where we've done, they'll be transparent, tell us their budget. It's more than their budget, so we'll figure out. Okay, we'll drop the rate a little bit, and then let's throw in some free hours. So obviously, I count those free hours. But if our standard rate, or your standard rate, or whoever's listening, if your standard rate, let's just say it's 175 and this is a 200-hour project, but you're going to charge them 125, then I would back into that 50 times the 200 is okay. We gave them X number of free hours, because to me, I think making that work, I think that does count for, I mean, because you could do it either way. Then you could just say, okay, well, I'm only going to charge you for 150 hours at 125 and I'll do 50 for free. Or we can go blended rate, 50 at 0 and 150 at 120, so there's a million ways to look at it, but to me that counts. And with my experience with the BIA, that counts. That, because we do some that are strictly free and $0 and 60 hours, and then we do some that are 200 hours at whatever, and 60 hours at 0. So I would include that, because I don't think there's no ethical issue in defending that number.
Yeah, along similar lines, and my situation is a little bit different, but I don't generally run my personal or my family's philanthropic giving through the business. Not that it's a crazy amount, but $20-$50 here and there adds up. I wonder if that's something I should think about doing from my business checking account as opposed to from my personal one.
Well, I'm not a trusted legal or accounting advisor. I don't see, especially as a solopreneur, I don't see how that could hurt. I actually met with my tax guy today, so it would have been a great question if you'd asked me about 2 hours ago of what that looks like. So, because I would imagine, I know like S corps do a lot of that. Like if you're an S corp, your tax as if it was an individual. So, they'll also include their write-offs as an individual.
Yeah.
Or their contributions as an individual.
And as a one person LLC, as a sole proprietorship, the tax write-offs are almost negligible, either from a personal or from a business standpoint. So I guess, talking that through out loud, I don't really give a shit where the money's coming from, as long as it's making it to, folks.
Organizations. Yeah, no, I trust me. I had a good, we went out to Las Vegas and did all Southern Utah last month, and on the last night I hit pretty decent on the way out of Vegas. It's the best time to hit when you're leaving. I came back, and so one of my friends, we'd done some work for a nonprofit up in Raleigh, and I donated some money to her when I got back. She said, "Why are you donating money to me?" I'm like, good karma. Like, it's just spreading the love. But yeah, no, I feel you. Like, there's just some days you just wake up and you're like, I'm just going to go like sprinkle some $100 bills around the world, because or you're having a bad day or something. You're like, I just need this day to turn around. So I'm going to make somebody else's day. So I don't know. It's kind of the fun part. And we have some charities we just absolutely love in Georgia that we've met just through AdVic, and we've supported them either with time but then I fall in love with them because I'm usually the one interacting with them the most. So like, I think we have a fantasy football team in our league this year, which we're drafting tonight. One of our fantasy football teams we're going to auto draft, and it's the charity team, because we already take half the money, go to charity, and we're going to have one team that's in the league strictly playing for, if they win, it all goes to charity, and somebody's partner is going to manage the team throughout the year. So yeah, fun stuff.
Awesome. I know you got to hit the bricks in a couple of minutes. I did want to talk briefly about the worker section of the BIA, which is not a particularly important one for me in the process that I'm going through, but I know that's also one that you're really familiar with. So maybe just at a high level, can you speak to some strategies that have been helpful for scoring well in that section?
I think a lot of it is just, fairness. And a lot of it comes back to some of those benefits, like, the volunteer time off and, sick time, to paid time off, holiday. Like when we originally went through it, we added 2 extra days off to get into a higher threshold where we're like, why not? So we gave everybody their birthday and just an extra floater with whatever day. So that comes into it. And then how many paid holidays you give off. So we do that. And then one of the other questions that I absolutely love for anybody that follows like Dan Price on LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere, the man just drops knowledge bombs and has proven that a lot of these crazy theories that he espouses work in the real world as a CEO. So one of the questions I love that's in the worker section is around pay multiplier from highest to lowest, from CEO down. And I think the highest one you can get is like 1 to 5x. So I'm pretty sure, I think that's the one we qualify for, which is pretty cool. I mean, granted, we're a services company, we're a consulting company. Our people, especially in the Salesforce ecosystem where there's more jobs than there is talent, we kind of have to, we pay well. And we have to take really good care of our employees. So it's a natural fit that we do well in the workers section. But at the same time, it's pretty cool that like, while we do that, our Jeff isn't paying himself like $3 million a year to like, call the shots from the ivory tower in the corner office. Like, that's one of the things I've always respected, is that none of those, and I got to see a lot of that stuff in FinOps. I get to see a lot of it when we research that. I'm saying not allowed to divulge it, but yeah, it's pretty cool that, I don't know. I've worked at those companies too, where you find out what the top dog's making, and you're like, oh my god. I'm like, or you see him in his like suit is clearly cost more than your last paycheck, and so it's pretty cool to know that I work at a company where it's fairly equitable.
I always forget the guy's name, but he wrote The Great Game, and they, in a lot of ways, pioneered open bookkeeping. And one of the things that's really stuck with me from his book is just how often employees overestimate the margins of a company. People are thinking that it's up around 30 to 50 or sometimes higher, and oftentimes they find out, oh yeah, it's in single digits. And that disconnect just speaks to why we see such high unengagement or lack of engagement stats for
We
businesses.
present that almost quarterly because, either there'll be, like last year, we didn't have any private equity money. So we were able to not make layoffs, not make furloughs, we literally just rolled out raises and COVID hits. We didn't roll back the raises. We didn't, but kind of having to be transparent, because you don't want, like, you're not looking for the pat on the back, but you do want your employees to know that like, we're not making any money this year. Right. There's no like, and trying to still like scrape together a bonus pool. And, we had 11 offers out to people graduating from undergrad, in June of last year. And we went through we've already made a commitment to these young men and women, so we brought them in. And, we made that investment in them because they had given us their commitment. And I don't know, it was just a very cool moment. I was very glad we didn't have any of that, because, you get PE money in the mix, and sometimes they still want their 20% return. But yeah, we present our numbers fairly regularly of like, here's how much goes to payroll and benefits. And it's basically like 90% of the revenue pie. And then there's this, and then there's, fun events, and then there's this, and we're left with, whatever it is, 5-10%, usually single digit margins. And I think people see what, especially at a consulting company, they see what you bill, and then they do the math. They're obviously very smart. They do the math on their hourly rate that they're getting paid. And they're like, whoa, you guys must just be like swimming in bathtubs of money upstairs. And it's not the case. And I think sometimes it helps them to understand that and appreciate it. And I think, especially with Gen Z, definitely with my generation, millennials, Gen Z is even worse. Like, they talk about what they make, and like there's no rules anymore. I think it helps because you're treating them like an adult. You're treating them like an educated, smart person that can understand information and process it, versus just going like, don't worry about that. I think there's something empowering for them to be able to see raw data, understand it, understand the why in the business, understand why we made that decision, understand if you're like cutting licenses or something, like not everybody needs Microsoft Word, like helping them understand like, hey, that's a big spend for us every year. So I think just giving them that information is a good business practice. And that's one of the things I love about the B Corp world too, just the overall transparency with which we all operate. both internally and, I mean, I'm sharing this externally. I hope I'm allowed to, but I'm assuming I am. Nothing proprietary, but overall transparency, I think it's a wonderful thing.
So by way, I mean, we could keep on talking about this forever, and I know pretty much this is what you do spend all day talking about, on a good day anyway. But to wrap it up, what would you say to those businesses out there that are still sitting on the sidelines? You know, they've been talking about, thinking about, reading about B Corp certification for a while now, and they haven't just, you know, taken the plunge.
Take
What?
it, take it, take it. Just take it. It's free. Take it. Find some free resources. Google's your friend. We teach our consultants this on day one. Google's your friend. Or Ecosia, that's a B Corp search engine. They plant trees when you search. Ecosia it. But yeah, just take the thing. Beimpactassessment.net. Take it. A lot of places have students eager for this type of work. So like you can get three. I mean, we're running 6 projects out of UGA right now. We're running 2 out of Emory, and I've got plans to build my collegiate empire around the state of Georgia. But NC State's running them. University of Florida's running them. I mean, I can go on and on. University of Alabama, I'm going there next month to help them get it rolling. Like everybody's doing these things. So yeah, find some students, take it, find some students, get some free help. Pay. I mean, even to hire a consultant in this space, they're not that expensive. So do it. At least figure out where you're at. Find a benchmark. Set some goals. Start improving some things, and then kind of go from there.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go back to cranking out the last couple of policies and procedures, hopefully to squeak up above that 80 points, just barely. So thanks for taking the time as always.
Yeah. If you have any questions, you know where to find me.